For some time now, I've been documenting the process behind this project I'm working on. And it's interesting because I have no idea what's gonna come out of this project. I have no idea if I'm going to be proud of the way this project is going to look. I like to think I will, but the reality is I have no idea. I know the council is very constrained, or has a lot of constraints in the terms of the architecture I can actually do. So it's not going to be a reflection of the kind of architecture I really want to do, at least not externally. But also, it's a residential building, so I'm not really sure up to what point a residential building has to call attention to itself. You see, I'm not building a museum or a stadium, I would love to design something like that. But since it's not the case, it's not really a public building, so it doesn't really need to call attention to it, so it can be something more subdued, which is what it's definitely being. Now, one of the comments I received on the course of this journey was from Ray, who is a former client, current friend, and owner of one of the houses I designed, Stilt House. And he correctly pointed out, well, why don't you place the parking spaces to the back? The reality is, I'm sorry to say, I cannot do this. The council guidelines are very clear that this is something they adamantly do not want. So I'm not going to do that. Today, I'm going to share with you my process and where my head went as I was designing these 4 units. And I think it should be fun. I already did most of this thinking on my own. I'm not gonna film everything because then it would just be hours and hours on end, which I would have to edit out. But showing you the process and how I arrived to this layout, I think could be something interesting. And I believe I'm actually getting to some interesting spaces inside. Okay, let's get to work and I'll show you exactly what I'm working on. So this section that I showed last time is more or less like this. It's not entirely proportionate, but bear with me. Now, I wanted to have all this be unit 1, and then this here be unit 2. And I wanted to do that because this way I could have this unit facing the garden, which would be entirely private, and that's great. And then this unit could be facing the parking. Because it's facing the parking space, it made sense for it to be a level up. So I'm happy with that solution, but it's bringing a few problems with it, because if I draw the section again, the problem with this section is that my bedroom would be up here. This would allow for a bigger space here, so my living room would be in direct connection with that. That's great because it would give me a big window here. But then here I have 1 bedroom and my second bedroom would be here. So 1 and 2, they are very far apart. So they're not going to be able to share the shower, for instance. So each one of them would have to have their own individual shower, which was not a request from the client, and it's something that the client is not going to be too happy about. But in all fairness, I see no way around this. It's not because my particular scheme is hard and it's calling for this layout, because if I would have done it differently, if I would have done it in a more traditional sense, and I would have done a division in this sense, first of all, it would have been quite complicated and boring, for lack of a better word, because this one would be great. It would face my garden, that's great. But this one would be facing the parking at the street level. And it's not going to be ideal, I think, because, well, first of all, you don't have much privacy. I mean, people are going to be walking here and being able to peek in is something that's going to make the people inside quite uncomfortable. That's something I absolutely wanted to avoid. But even if I wanted to do that, I have about 60 to 70 square meters of area in each of my levels. If I divide that by 2, I have somewhere between 30 to 35 square meters, which is not enough to fit a living room, kitchen, and dining room, along with an entrance hall and a toilet. It's going to be just too tight. And then if I have 70 square meters here, which would be just enough to fit everything twice, because I would need one for the unit facing the parking and the other one for facing the garden. Then I would also have 70 square meters here, which starts to be too much. So at this stage, and this is where thinking like an architect really plays in, I have to be thinking constantly of how many square meters I'm building and I'm designing. Because if I'm having too many square meters, I'm probably going to have to change my whole layout to add a third bedroom and make my living room bigger. And then these larger units are going to be harder to sell because they would command a higher price. I know what I want to do and what my client would actually like, and that is to have 2-bedroom units which are somewhere between 80 to 100 square meters. That's my comfort zone. When I stray from that, I start to get into trouble. Now, let's take this to plan. This is more or less the layout. This is the current house. This is the layout. I can actually trace this. This is more or less my plot. And I'm planning to have, this is my party wall that has all the windows. So I have to have some distance from this space. The more distance I have, the better my project is going to be ultimately. I'm going to have my parking here, and I know I can fit 7 parking spaces, but I'm going to have to sacrifice one in order to accommodate the 2 entrances. Why 2 entrances? I'll explain in a minute. So I think my building is going to be coming somewhere around here. I don't want to go further in than 12 meters in, because then I would get in trouble with the council guidelines. And I'm going to have my building be split in 2. So this section I was drawing here is actually a section like this. I'm cutting the building here and I'm looking there. So this is my park in the back, and this is where I have 1 unit on top of the other, or this one is going to be on top of this one actually. So here I have 1, 2, and then again 3 and 4. That's why I'm always talking about the 4 units. The way I've been thinking about this is I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna have 2 parking units here, parking spaces here, a pathway here, another 2 parking spaces, so P1, P2, P3, P4, another access, and then another 2 parkings, P5 and P6. So this one here is an access, pedestrian access into my building. This one would serve for the 2 units on the ground floor, and this one coming up like this and turning would turn into a stairs which would take to the first level, and therefore here into the units 3 and 4, which are going to be above. Now, when I was designing this, what I immediately saw was that I had to cut back. As I was saying before, I was looking at the amount of square meters I was having, and I realized that by having 6 meters here and 12 here, I was just having, my whole building was just too big. I needed to cut down. This is half, this is 1 meter. This is where I decided to have my circulation. So my stairs are going to be located here. So when you come up this way. You come in, And then you have everything again here. Why am I doing that? I'm having my internal circulation on the inside because I want to leave this open, because this way I can have windows facing this new park I'm creating, or new space I'm creating. And then again, here I can also look into that area. So this I can't, because I have my party wall against my neighbor, but I can exploit that. So the layout typically would have, of course, my living room here facing the garden. This is the garden. Oh. The two units could be more or less the same. Initially, my bedrooms, both of them, were in this orientation. And this one was the same. The thing is, I had to fit the staircase that goes up here, that serves the two units above. This is the external staircase. If I wanted to fit that staircase, what I had to do was I had to twist my bedroom so that it's oriented differently, so I can make room for that staircase. The rest of the unit can be left more or less the same. And this is where I started to cut on the fat of the building. I started to make it smaller. So this distance is the same as this one. And then I also said, okay, this one then will be the same as this one, because it will create a harmony of the building. Not because I have more or less mirror units that the facade needs to be symmetrical. I actually want to play with that. So this actually helps me to play precisely with that. My toilet would be here, with a door somewhere here like that. And then my kitchen would be here. This would be the kitchen. Now, it's always a good idea to have two doors from your kitchen to your toilet. So this is the kitchen. I have to see how I fit this here, but normally it fits well. Now, as I said before, each bedroom would need its own shower. So if I'm having a door here, I know I'm gonna have to be playing with this space to have a shower, and similar here. And I'm gonna need a shower here for this bedroom and for this bedroom. This bedroom, rather than looking into the parking area, can look into the garden, the new patio, the new courtyard I'm having here. And this bedroom, well, it can look into the parking space. Doesn't matter. It's only one bedroom of the whole units. It's not the end of the world. And this, yeah, don't kill me for that. The proportion is not entirely accurate. Fine. We'll correct it when we get to the actual plans later on the... Not on this video, but later. Now, the level above works similarly, but not that similarly, because my above level, as I said before, I want to stop it somewhere there, so that all this can benefit from a double height. The other big difference I'm having is that not going to be able to make use of the space underneath the staircase, because underneath my new staircase here is the staircase from the below unit that is going to the other bedroom. I know this probably doesn't make sense, but I'll show you some images from the computer as well. So above, we also enter the same space similarly. Then I have to make a hall here, and then I have to turn to get the staircase, or I can move it further in, and here I'm gonna have my toilet on either side, here as well, toilet. Or I'm going to be entering the semi-public space of this unit, which is going to be living room, dining room, and kitchen. I did the math, and I have about, because I cannot employ this space either, huh? This space is closed off. It's going to be the staircase from the below unit. This space is more or less 30 square meters, which is good enough for a living room, dining room, and kitchen. I'm not counting this. Now further up still, I decided to have my second bedroom of my below level. And this is the staircase that comes to that level. So you have one staircase here and the other one here. And now we're drawing this space here. This bedroom, just all this. This is what we're doing now. And this belongs to this unit. So all this is one unit. So this is what we're doing now. And here I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna have my entrance there. This is gonna be my shower. So I'll put S for shower. Oh. I have like a dressing here. That's 3 meters, so I can have my bed like that. That's a bit tight. That's one option. Because my window is going to be there for this level. Because underneath I'm gonna have a massive window, but it's going to be facing west. This is a problem. I'm all for sustainability and sustainable design, and I do not really like having big massive windows facing west. It's not so much a matter of energy consumption here in Belgium because people don't usually have air conditioning, but it's a matter of comfort and common sense. Having a westward window, you don't need to be a genius to know that in summertime that is going to overheat if it's big enough, and the one I'm projecting is more than big enough. However, there's an easy way around it, and that is by simply placing a tree here, or a few trees, which are densely leafed. Is that a term? Hopefully it is. And have enough leaves on summertime. If we can have that, then all this problem of having the west windows being a source of overheating is done with, because here I'm drawing this in this small sketch I have here. If these are my leaves, my trees and whatever with a lot of leaves, my summer sun, the one that's dangerous for in terms of overheating, is quite low, would be here. That's actually the problem with westward windows. It's hard to protect from the sun on these orientations because the sun is quite low, but it remains quite strong during the warm period and when temperatures are still high. So it's hard to protect against it because if it's low, then you need something vertical which will obviously cover the views. But if you have trees and vegetation, this can work. So the problem with this approach, however, is a very silly one. The problem is that more often than not, this tree is just overlooked. We don't pay enough attention to actually putting it afterwards. And if it's not planted, then the space will overheat and the people inside here will not remember me kindly. Anyway, back to our room above it. As I was saying, I want these rooms to be facing to the side. It's not so much a matter of orientation, though arguably these are better orientations to the north and to the south, definitely. But it's a matter of proportions, aesthetics and costs. I don't want to be adding new dormers to my building because dormers come at an expensive cost, and here the slope comes down quite hard, so I don't have a lot of height, not enough height to fit a proper window, but I do have a lot of height to fit a window here. I want my windows facing that way. That's why I want my bed facing that way. Now, If I cannot make it, then that's fine. It's not the end of the world. I don't know. This has to be still worked out, but I can do that later. I know that I have more than enough space. Well, not more than enough. I know my space is tight, but I think I have enough to work on, so this is not going to stop me from going on with the rest of the project. Because again, what I'm thinking constantly is, how many square meters am I building? Am I having enough, too many, or too few? Overall, the rule is you usually design bigger and then you make it smaller. Because it's a lot easier to shrink down a project than to scale it up. This is why I made this strategy of reducing this. I was capable of doing that. It's not as evident that you're going to have the possibility of doing the opposite. Then we only have one more room left, and that would be the room below the slope of the roof. So this one here. That one I'm actually going to wait it out because it depends on what height I have. I've been working on the computer doing my 3D model, and interestingly enough, I realized I had to reduce the height of all my other levels in order to accommodate a proper bedroom there. But now I know that I have enough surface area to have my bedroom there with its proper shower. Now this is not necessarily carved in stone. I still need to make sure that I'm going to have enough room for all my technical equipment, which I have been giving it a thought, to be honest, as I was designing. As I'm designing, I'm placing my toilets close together. I'm placing everything I can, and when I'm not doing it, I'm quite aware I'm not doing it, and I'm consciously thinking, this is something I want to do. So I probably don't speak it out, but more often than not, I am at least considering it. The same with the structure. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a column somewhere there, and it doesn't really bother me because I plan on using it also for bringing down technical equipment as well. Then this staircase here, the external staircase that we discussed earlier, well, that one will also allow me to have a space, external space, to place all my meters. And that needs to be placed against the facade because the utilities companies demand that. So that this space underneath the staircase is going to be good enough for that. So again, I just wanted to give you some insight as to what an architect is actually thinking of when we're throwing down our lines. We're thinking of structure, we're thinking of technical equipment. It's probably not going to be perfect. It's going to change a zillion times. Probably the client doesn't like my approach. Probably he detests the idea of having 2 showers per unit. So again, this is iteration. You move forward and then you come back and you keep what's good and you discard what is not. That's just how it is. Hope you got something out of it.